Hello friends and welcome back to another episode. This is Rob from Room 111. So in this episode I'd like to show you around the Zorki 4. Okay, it's a wonderful camera for the money. I'll tell you now, I paid $40 for this, the body and lens, and it's a tremendous value. Okay, so you can see here the serial number, made in USSR. Viewfinder. Now this is the prime weakness of the camera, but I'll talk about this more as I go along. Okay, so this is kind of like a Barnack, it's kind of the same format. Okay, you have the film rewind, post, cold shoe, shutter speed selector, the shutter release. I'm trying to get my focus here. Shutter release, and the film advance. Okay, so let's talk about two major. Let me show you the lens here. I'm kind of all over the place at the moment. So this is the Industar 50. It's a wonderful lens. Okay, maximum aperture f3.5, and it's a 50mm focal length. So the lens and the body combined were only $40. So it's a tremendous value. Okay, so let me tell you the two drawbacks of the camera. So in these old cameras, so with the most critical thing you have to do is remember, you always. Now this is how you advance the film and cock the shutter. This doesn't have the actual crank lever. Okay, film advance lever. You actually turn it by hand, and that's how you cock the shutter. I'll do it again. Okay, now that it's advanced, now you can change your shutter speed. Okay, if you have one of these cameras and you attempt to adjust the shutter speed first without cocking the shutter, you can damage the camera. So it's again, you have to begin, right? It is what it is, so just be mindful of it. That's what you have to do first. So I would recommend, quite literally, this camera. I'm using this camera specifically for one purpose only. I'm going to use it with ASA. I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm either going to use it at ASA 400 or 100 speed, and I'm going to lock the shutter in yeah, I have it at 1/500. So I've already. This is my 400 speed. I'm only going to shoot 400 speed film in this camera, and the reason I've done that is because when I first got the camera, the first thing I did was cock the shutter, and I placed the shutter speed selector at 1/500, and that's my Sunny 16 for ASA 400 speed film. So that's all I'm ever going to put in this camera, just for that particular reason, because I literally never plan on changing the shutter speed, so I never damage the camera. And for $40 you can do that. You could actually get this camera for $40. Advanced, cock your shutter, put it at 1/500, Sunny 16 for 400 speed film. If you bought another camera, do the same thing. Advanced, right? Cock your shutter, put it at 1/125, and that's your shutter. That's your shutter speed selector for Sunny 16 with 100 speed film. So again, I would highly recommend that because the cameras are so affordable. And why take a chance on damaging the camera for $40? Just make it a one-shot Charlie, right? So I know in this particular camera, all I'm ever going to shoot is ASA 400 speed film with Sunny 16 conditions. That's all. Because I have other cameras that are, far more specialized and more diverse, and they can do more, broad spectrum stuff. This is a single spectrum camera. Okay, so use it in its band of excellence, understand its limitations, and use it accordingly. Okay, I know I went very long with that, but I can't stress it enough, because if you accidentally change the shutter speed without it being cocked, you're going to damage the camera. So let me tell you the biggest drawback with this camera. Okay, I covered the first one, is advancing the film before you choose the shutter speed in this viewfinder. This viewfinder is not 100. Now normally that's called frame lines. You have guidelines in there that show you your upper left, upper right, lower left, and lower right boundaries. This doesn't exist in this camera. So it's really, really weird that what happens is that if you're thinking you have the image centered in here, and it's going to cut off the top of the image. So you're going to have to take 2, 3, 4 rolls of film before you really get used to it. But just realize, if you're going to err on the side of caution, have more in the upper part of the frame than what you really count on for your first roll. Kind of back out, and you can always crop later in post, but include more in the frame, because if you try to use this as an accurate composition, if you use your window, right, as trying to compose accurately, you're not going to, and you're going to cut off the top of all your images, which was what I did in a lot of my images. So learn from my mistake. And again, just back up and allow more in the frame than what you anticipate. Okay, so I showed you the top of the camera. The front is the viewfinder. Let me get my focus. This is the viewfinder. This is the rangefinder. PC sync, self timer. What else? On the bottom, so this is kind of like the old, this is like a Leica 2. You have your tripod socket. The way you remove the way you load the film is you turn these both inboard. Okay, both of these things, let me get my focus again. These both go inboard, and then you just remove it from the camera. Okay, so what you're left with is just the back side of the camera. Okay, so you can see here, I'm going to fire the shutter. Oops, that's the part that the film leader goes into. Okay, so let me do that again. So you can see here, I'm winding on the shutter. Then at that point, I would, if I'm going to, I would adjust my shutter speed and then fire the shutter. Okay, so there are, I'm not going to show you that here because it's absolutely duplicating efforts from other people, but this, you can't put a cassette of 35mm film in here and just advance it as you normally would. It's got to be trimmed a certain way, and it's called a leader, right? It's 10 centimeters of lead, and it's kind of weird. It's got to be thin, and then it tapers up at the last minute. But again, there are other videos out there, and it's quite easy to do. You can use it with a pair of scissors. You can do it with an X-Acto knife. It's up to you, and it's quite easy. Again, it's on the hardness. If on like a Likert scale of difficulty, 0 being very easy and 10 being extremely difficult, it's probably a 3. So it's quite easy to do. Okay, so again, my highest recommendations: understand the limitations of the camera. Again, you have to wind on the either advance your film or cock the shutter before you change the shutter speed, and just be aware that the top of your images are going to be cut off if you use this window accurately. Okay, so again, my highest recommend, and I'll roll in the images now. Thank you.